narcissistic people have very low distress tolerance levels, meaning that they don't know how to process negative emotions in a healthy way. They don't even recognize most of the time what it is that they're truly feeling. So if something happens to them that triggers an emotional response, it's usually going to come out as anger, it's going to come out as rage. They're going to attempt to cope with their negative emotions by projecting it onto whoever it is that's in front of them at the time, and blame shift and deflect. And that is how they cope with negative emotions. And the problem with that is that we as human beings are going to experience negative emotional states. That's part of the human experience. That's part of being a human being. And narcissistic people refuse to do that, right? They believe that they are entitled and superior and better than everybody, right? And they shouldn't have to tolerate any distress. They should just have everything they want, when they want, how they want, which is an extremely delusional way of expecting things to be. Because again, part of the human experience is that we're going to be triggered. We're going to have to go through distressing situations, right? So when they get triggered because something isn't going their way, they will frequently take any feeling that they have, whether that be shame, whether that be guilt, whether that be inferiority, whether that be anything that touches their fragile ego and triggers that shame inside of them, they will attempt to project onto you. And that's why when you bring up something to the narcissist about how you're feeling, about something that they did that hurt you, whatever it may be along those lines, they will take it personally and they will project all the way that they feel about you bringing something up on to you as a coping mechanism. Narcissistic people are the kings and queens of projecting their unprocessed emotion. They've never learned distress tolerance. They've never learned emotional regulation. They don't know what to do with these emotions other than lash out in a fit of rage. And their defenses are so strong that if you try to reason with them, you try to bring them to a point where they can engage in self-reflection or where they can engage in feeling their emotions, that will enrage them even more because they are terrified of feeling their feelings. That's why they behave in the way that they do. That's why they cope with the blame and the rage and the anger. Because if they weren't to cope that way, they would need to cope a different way, right? A lot of narcissists can be alcoholics as well, or abuse substances as a way of numbing themselves, of avoiding feeling their feelings, because it is a difficult thing to do for a lot of us, right? It's not pleasant to go through our emotions and feel sadness and feel guilt and feel bad and feel betrayal or whatever it is that we're feeling at the time. It's hard, but it's absolutely necessary for us to be able to move past them. We cannot drink away our emotions. We cannot eat away our emotions. We cannot shop away, anger our way, lash out our way, deflect our way through our emotions. The only way we can get through our emotions is by sitting with them and allowing ourselves to feel them. That's when they will leave our system. Narcissists, what happens is that they never allow themselves to feel what they're truly feeling. So they stuff it all down. It's like imagine having a big balloon that you're trying to stuff down into the water, a blown up balloon, and you're just pushing it down and it's fighting, it wants to come up and you're just pushing it down. Every time an emotion comes down, they try pushing that emotion down into the water. And as a result, it comes out as rage, as anger, as deflection, as projection, because they need an outlet, because they need a way of expressing those emotions. And what happens is they express their emotions in an indirect manner, and they never actually get to the root cause of what's causing them to feel the way that they're feeling, to feel hurt or to feel guilty or whatever it is that they're feeling, that they're expressing in a very indirect and unhealthy way. So what do we do when we're met with a narcissistic person who's projecting their shame and guilt and all sorts of other feelings that are unprocessed onto us? It's so imperative for our mental health that we do not take on the responsibility for the narcissist's emotional lashing out, because it is not our responsibility to take. When they scream and yell and blame and project, we need to see it for what it is. It is a response from someone who's emotionally dysregulated, who's not in tune with their real emotions, and so they're coping by abusing us. They're coping by lashing out at us, because that's what it is. It's abuse. When you are lashed out at and blamed and undermined, that is a form of emotional abuse, right? And it's not okay. So seeing it for what it is and not taking on the guilt, because a lot of the time what happens, especially if you're someone who's empathetic, you will end up feeling bad that you created this reaction in the narcissist. But that's not true. That's not true. The narcissistic person is incapable of being attuned to what they're actually feeling and having a productive adult conversation about it. So they're coping in the unhealthy ways that they know how, and that is not your fault. Their guilt, their shame is not your responsibility to take on. So when you're faced with this, try to depersonalize what's happening, meaning you're not defending yourself. You're not taking on their guilt. You're not taking responsibility. You're not explaining. You're not engaging with them in a deep way, because they're not there, right? They're not at a place where they're capable of engaging in a genuine and meaningful way. They just know how to blame, shame, and create chaos, and you don't want to be pulled into the chaos that they're creating. So depersonalizing it. I'm sorry you feel that way, keeping a hand's length away from yourself so that you are not having to internalize it. And I know that this is very easier said than done. And many narcissistic people, when you do depersonalize and when you do go gray rock and you don't go back and forth with them and give them emotional reactions back, they will get pissed, right? That'll make them really angry, because narcissistic people, they thrive off of other people's emotional reactivity to them. That helps them self-regulate. That's a part of their very unhealthy coping mechanism. So when they attack you, they're expecting a response, right? So they can get their emotional supply from you, and that can help self-regulate themselves, seeing that you're also upset, right? But if you don't give them that, that might enrage them, right? Because they're not getting that supply they need to self-regulate. But the goal in not giving them a reaction is to teach them over time that you are not a good source of supply. You want the narcissist to get bored with you. If you're not engaging in a shouting match and defending yourself and whatever, taking on their guilt, they are going to see over time, consistently, if you're doing this, that, she's boring. She's not responding to my bids for unhealthy emotional regulation because she's not responding to me. I'm not getting emotional supply from this person anymore. And the goal is that they move on to somebody else who, they can get supply from, which is terrible, because, the ideal situation is for nobody to be a source of narcissistic supply. But the main thing is you don't want to be that source of supply. We don't have control over other people, unfortunately. I hope this video helped to break down why narcissistic people lash out in rage in the way that they do, and why they really have no emotional regulation skills or distress tolerance, and they're completely detached from their emotions. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.